I was raised in McCrory, Arkansas. It's about 110 miles south of here, a farming town. I was a country boy. My father was a band director, and I became a band director. Came here as a band director in 53, I guess. Right. And was band director for about 15 years.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
No.
No, only child?
No.
So.
I was an only child and spoiled.
Yeah. So a good part of your growing up was during the Depression in the 30s.
Oh, yes, very much so. I was born in 31. I'm 80. I'll be 88 in May. Yes, I remember the Depression very well.
What was it like?
Huh?
What was it like?
What was it like? I was very fortunate. We sort of lived on a farm, and we had my father was, before he was a teacher, was worked as a manager of a lumberyard, and we didn't suffer too much. In fact, it was pretty good raising. It wasn't a lot. We had outdoor toilets and this usual thing that going on those days. They were rough days for everybody. I thank goodness I wasn't on the really rough side of it, but it wasn't. It was a hard time for the world. Yeah. 10 years.
So you started your photography as a teenager or as a kid, didn't you?
Photography?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I had a little, when I was 10th grade, I had a little photography business. I did my yearbooks. I did the yearbooks of my high school days. I had my dark room in a barn. I watched my pictures at a horse trough, and it was something to do, and I made a little money at it.
What got you interested in that?
My father got me interested in most everything. He was quite a man.
Yeah. So a lot has changed since then with photography. What kind of camera did you have?
Oh gosh, my first camera is in a museum down here. It was a pressed camera. At that time, to be a professional photographer, you need to look like one, which was you had to wear a hat. You had a big camera with a flash, real bulbs. I mean, they had tinfoil inside of them. And you were very careful about the pictures you made, because every time you pulled a trigger, you were spending some money. My camera was a Bush Pressman, and 2 1/4 by 3 1/4, and it's in the library down here. I mean the museum.
So yeah, like you said, it was probably a pretty expensive hobby back in those days. How were you able to afford to buy your stuff?
I sold pictures. I told them, this what you do. You run a business. And in high school, it was a pretty lucrative business, because I was selling to high school, and I was being called. I was the only photographer around, so I did weddings and everything that needed to be done.
So your dad was a music teacher too. What instruments did you play when you were in high school?
Let me tell you, my father was an actor, musician on a showboat on the Mississippi when he was young. He played about all the instruments. He was an actor. He was a very unique gentleman. He was very honest, and he was a mentor to me. But he was he around town. He started a municipal band in town, and he also started an acting troupe called Rip's Comedians, and they did performances and bought curtains for the school, and all that money went to the PTA and to school improvements. And this was community service. He was big on community service.
Were you, as a teenager, were you in any other clubs, or did you play sports, or? You probably didn't have much time.
I played it. My dad started the band, and he was hired as a high school band director just before, a year before he died. He died when I was a junior, and then they had me take the band my senior year. I was band director. I wasn't a very good band director, but I filled the hole.
So you were a teacher even before you graduated?
I was band director my senior year. They paid me $100, I think, to be band director for 5 months. My father died of a heart attack during my senior year, during my junior year.
What did you do after high school?
I went
go to
college. I went to Arkansas State College in music for 4 years. Got my Bachelor of Music Education. This was my first job here.
So that's what brought you to Doniphan?
The superintendent school. There was very few band directors available. And we were pretty much in demand. And I was having to, my senior year, finish up my senior year, and I was going to a lot of interviews for jobs. Jobs were, everybody wanted a band director. Mr. Stone was superintendent here, and one day they called me and said he wanted to have an interview. I finally came here to look over the town, and Bill Capps and Mr. Stone took me on the river, took me down to the mill dam on fishing, and I caught a small mouth. And I really liked this town. So it was a toss-up between here and Marianna, Arkansas. And they had a bigger school, but they also, right there by the river, they had mosquitoes and swamps and some things that I was wanting to get away from. So I decided Doniphan was a place for me, and that was 1953, and this is my home. I married a local girl, and she wanted to leave, but I wanted to stay. National Guard and other things were holding me.
So you mentioned the National Guard. You were part of the reserve, right?
Yeah, I was National Guard I came here as a sergeant in the National Guard. I don't know if you know Bill Gatlin. Bill Gatlin was a basketball star here. He was a sergeant, weapons squad leader here, and I was a weapons squad leader in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And we swapped jobs. And so I was here for about a year, and I went to OCS, got my commission here, and eventually was commander of the Guard for 4 years. I went on to staff work and then went into reserve. I spent 31 years in that.
So is that something that you did when you were in college to help pay for your education, or?
No.
No.
I think at that time I was probably getting $40 a month, National Guard pay. No, it didn't. It wasn't a financial deal. The reasoning wasn't financial. Korea was going on, and we thought we were going to be pulled in. And I said, well, I might as well go with a bunch of guys that I know, And we weren't activated, we weren't deployed, and so that's.
So now you started, like you said, you started as band director here in '53. Tell us a little bit about your years as band director. I mean.
Oh gosh, I'm going to reunions now. I've been reunions all next week, and I got another one to go to Saturday. They're wonderful, wonderful bunch of kids. Great experience for 15 years. I loved the band. I loved the kids. I think as many of them is talking to me now tell me they like me. And we had some good bands. We had some big bands. And I think you can look at your past yearbooks and see the quality. We also did some recordings that are on file. So what did I think about reason? After 15 years, I was basically looking for possibilities of doing something else, I guess I was just, I wasn't disappointed in the band in any way, but at a point in your life, you get to thinking, I need a change. At that time, there was a lot of federal money coming down the tube and federal programs coming into schools. And I was asked to be federal programs director and take care of some of the federal money and federal programs and federal grants that were coming into the school at that time. Nobody had any experience in that, and I sure didn't. But you learn quick when you're in the middle of a whirlpool. You learn to swim quick. But I enjoyed it. It gave me a challenge, and I came into stayed here and became federal programs director under Geo Carson, and he was very supportive of. He was a very great, really great man. He had a big vision. He had good vision for young people, and he brought me in and gave me a lot of support. And so I can't say enough for what Geo Carson did, the superintendent. In fact, I can't say enough for what everybody in this town has done for Paul Ripley. Everybody's been so supportive over all my lifetime. I feel like everybody's my family.
So how did the whole vocational school thing come about back in that time?
Oh my gosh, man. You want the long story or the short one? Okay, you got to know what was happening. Back in those days, everybody was scared. The Russians had the atomic bomb. Everybody was building fallout shelters. We had fought Korea to armistice. We had got kicked out of the Bay of Pigs at Cuba. We were involved in Vietnam and weren't doing too well. And everybody thought the Russians were going to come anytime. They put up the first satellite. They put up the first man in space. And everybody, all the news media, blamed the schools. We weren't teaching right. Russia was beating us on all fronts. Everybody was scared. So Lyndon Johnson, with the great society, decided, and the Congress decided what they need to do was throw money at the problem. You know, that's the same way they do now. You got a problem, throw money at it. So they started the Department of Education. There wasn't a Department of Education until this came about, but they started one, and they printed money, and money started going to mainly to disadvantaged, vocational and disadvantaged, and science and math programs. There was a lot of money coming down. Bureaucracies were started. They were getting money. They didn't know what to do with it. And everybody was taking big chances with this federal money. There was a lot of it there. Now I'm giving you the law, you stop me when you want to.
Go ahead.
But at that time, the state of Missouri was had all this federal vocational money coming into the state. So they took the map of Missouri and they divided it up into sections called vocational, area vocational sections. They just started drawing the map. We ended up with in an area here with Poplar Bluff. What they were going to do is pay 50-50 for somebody to build vocational schools to serve that area. Well, Poplar Bluff built one, and we were supposed to be served. So I'll cut things short. In December 19, let me make a note here. In December of 1970, Mr. Carson, the superintendent, said, go over to Poplar Bluff and get us some of our students into that vocational school. And so I went over there, and they were full of, they said, we got no place for you. We're full of Poplar Bluff students. So I got a little ticked off. And I came back, and we sat over there across the street in the office and got the idea that this big building across the street was empty. At that time, Vitronics had moved up on the north end, and this was a great big hall of a building. You could put your back against the wall over here and see the wall on that side. It was completely open. It was just random with a furnace and junk. It was a great big building. Lester Wright owned it. Lester Wright was a good man. We got to working with him. We got the idea, gosh, that would be a great place for a vocational school. But how we got any money? So we talked to Lester. And well, first I went to Jefferson City, and I talked to the director of area vocational schools. His name was Harold Lynch, and he said, we're out of money for vocational schools, but if you could start one that meets all the ramifications of a vocational school, said we'll fund your salaries and help you with your equipment. But we had no money. So we looked at other things like the Department of Commerce, AEDA, Economic Development Administration. They helped us with the courthouse, remodel the courthouse. And I got friends with a fellow by the name of Forrest Koch. He had offices at the Federal Building in St. Louis. And I went up there and talked to him. He said, you may have something if you could convince us and write a program, we might be able to help you. So we come back and talked to the man that owned this building, Lester Wright. he had nothing to do with it. He would be glad to sell it to us and also donate to the Chamber of Commerce a significant amount of money that we could use to get started on. The Chamber of Commerce also, I was on the board of the Chamber at that time, and we had just sold a piece of property down by Mill Dam. There was an old boat dock, it got washed out, but Dr. LaRue bought it, and we had about $35,000 there. And Dick Brummett, I'm just calling these names, I hope you recognize some of them. Dick Brummett, another hero of this day. He was chamber president, I was vice president. But he said, sure, we'll take Lester's gift and we'll put it with chamber money. Hey, we had some scratch going, you know, to make an application. So we talked to Forrest. Forrest, who is, you remember, he's the EDA man. We found out we weren't going to be able to do business with the State Department of Education at this point. We had to do it through Department of Commerce. So we got 5 of us went to the EDA in Chicago. 5 of us. Gail Watson of the Foothills Planning Commission, Mr. Carson, who was superintendent of schools here, me, Harold Lynch, who was the area director, and Forrest Koch, who is the EDA local man in St. Louis, went up to Chicago with us. I had put together a PowerPoint presentation because it was sort of like you see on TV with these Senate deals. They were sitting up here, we were sitting down here, microphones, you know, and all that sort of stuff. It looked like a Senate committee, and all of us are sitting around. Well, Galen was talking to us about how much need we have in this area, and Mr. Carson was talking about the needs we had in the school, and Harold Lynch was telling about how the state would support us, and Forrest Koch was there telling about our experience with good experiences he's had here in Doniphan with various programs he'd had. All of them were helping. We met at 10 o'clock. We were off about 11:30. They said, we'll let you know. And so we came back at 1 o'clock, and they said, we'll give you provisional approval for 80/20 for $1 million. And so that meant, and we were well on our way at that time with not money, but pledges for our part. We were in good shape on that. But all these were pledges, they weren't money. They were pledges. If you get this, we'll do that, you know, type of thing. So we come back at 1 o'clock. We had a plane to catch at O'Hare at 4 o'clock. So we all came back breathless, and they said, well, we'll approve you for $1 million on an 80/20 basis. Okay, we tried to get them to do 100. We really worked at it, trying to get them to make 100%, but they didn't. But they said, we could approve you, but everything has got a but on it, you know. Said, but we can't give it to you. We can't approve you until December. This is March 1971. And they said, we cannot give you approval for money until December 71. They had their financial cycle. They already obligated up to that. So, but we had their word. And as I said, Mr. Carson was a visionary, and he was a risk taker for the school, and I admire him very much. he told me, he said, write the program. So we set up the plan, the floor plan. We got the architect to come over pro bono and do us an architectural plan. We had everything in place ready for money. And on December 1971, we got the approval. Now, that's great. However, they don't give you money. You spend the money, and then they replace it. This is a big, big problem. A big problem. Because we had to move money fast, so we set up a thing with the bank for digital. Well, we set up a thing with them for through the phone company for. You got to help me for fax.
Okay.
And we had to move quick because, man, when we spent a buck, really what we did, we'd give promissory notes to the contractor. He'd come in, he'd give us a paid receipt. We'd put the paid receipt in, he would give money, you know, until we got money back. And so we had to move money as quick as we could. This was a problem all year long. $1 million, and that doesn't sound like much now, but man, it was big, big money back in '70. And it was whether we were going to survive or not. All right, we rated what we had at that time. We had a vocational classes going all over town. We had a building trades class, very successful. We had a plumbing class, very successful, from the school, not the area, but the school. And we had a auto mechanics class scattered all over town. One of them was here in this old building. And so we figured, well, we'll take those 3 classes. Well, I got ahead of myself. Part of this vocational school, we had to have other schools on board. And so we got Couch, Naderville, and so forth. Got them on board way early, and got their signatures, and they were sympathetic. They would love to have it. It was their financial, because they could count on these classes in state aid, you know. I feel like I'm rambling. No, you're not. But it was complicated in those days. You signed your name, you didn't know whether somebody go to some FBI man was going to come down and say, "Is that your name?" Yeah. Anyway.
So when did the...
We had these 3 classes, so we decided, well, we didn't have enough Doniphan people to fill this school. We had to have these other people coming in for financial reasons and to meet our obligations and to fill our classes. So we decided, we'd done a little research and decided health occupations would be a good thing. So we said, okay, we got 3 classes already. We'll put health occupations in, and we'll put a welding class in, and we'll put a small engines class in, health occupations. All right, then we brought ag over from on top of the hill. That freed up money, that freed up area over on the hill, the bus garage hill. We brought ag over, and we brought industrial arts over, and Schleif was head of industrial arts then. And so we brought them in, and so we had a pretty good basis for operating a vocational school. We were up to surplus property and got obsolete hospital beds for our, we got obsolete welders up at Jefferson City at surplus property. We were getting stuff everywhere we could get it. But it all worked out because our budget included all this building, all these walls and the ceilings, and our electricity and our heating. We didn't have any air conditioning. But we got through, and we got all this done. We were approved in December '71, and we opened school in September of '72.
So you were able to get all that done in
Wow.
9 months?
You talk about hustling.
Yeah.
Plus, we was working Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV federal programs, school lunches. Anyway, it was exciting, to say the least.
So,
Gosh, I've rambled here and rambled.
so what was it like when the first students walked through the doors? When the first students came through the doors, what was it
Oh
like?
my gosh, everybody was delighted. I mean, the whole town turned out. Everybody loved it. Our sending schools loved it. You know, they got a lot of support too. Transportation, they got to count all these classes as part of their foundation program. It was a win-win for everybody. You know? And there was no tax money really involved, except the school had sold a couple. By the way, the vocational classes that were here before this had already built several houses, and they did a good job, and they made a profit on those houses. We happened to have just sold a vocational home. That was, I was vocational director. All I did was keep everybody from fighting one another. I'd try to keep stuff off the teachers' backs, you know. And so, because I knew a little bit about building, but you know, I wasn't.
So were there some challenges, you know, those first couple years, you know?
Oh, you want me to say no? It was everything is a challenge because you never stand still. You know, we were trying to upgrade immediately we were trying to upgrade everything because we had tools we had saws that the teeth were about out of them. We had old obsolete welding machines. We had old beds that we were teaching kids at health occupations to use old Army surplus hospital beds and stuff like that. And we were immediately when we opened up, we had to upgrade. We had a long way to upgrade from the time we started, but it went. You know, it just took time, but it never stopped. You say, was it a challenge? Things weren't over. When we opened up in September '72, it was just that was the start. That was the opening of the vocational school and the start of a continuous upgrading. Even when we started, it didn't look like it does now. We put business over here too. We brought it in from our business school, and we made it business occupation. So that was another plus we had over here. And then we had small engines, but we had adult classes. We started doing that, and there was always something to do, always something to progress toward. I want to give credit also to people like Lucille Ryan, who was secretary of the school. She had to keep a lot of this money. We didn't have a separate bank account. They operated it through the school. And so all this stuff had to be sort of kept in a part of the school deal. And the secretary I had, Pearl Farmer, a wonderful woman, you know. And she was, we had a lot of heroes, a lot of heroes at this time. But when I left, Kenneth Reagan took the school in for about 10 years, and I was about to retire in '84. After 30 years, I was going to go into photography. Did I make your pictures?
No, you made my wife's though.
Oh, okay. You still got them?
Yeah, she's got them.
I love that photography. I mean, I absolutely loved it. Mainly because for the first time, my wife and I could work together. You know, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, which I was going to ask you, you've probably taken the senior pictures of half of the people in Ripley County. You know, do you know just how many of those you did over the years?
I did for 20 years. Yeah. I left there, well, I started the business. I started learning the business a year or so before of course I did it in high school, but you know, that was different. I'd made pictures all my life. But I went to, one summer up to Iowa to the Mid-America Institute of Professional Photography, and I had a lot of mentors. And I began doing competitive photographing. I made all of Naylor, all of her, I guess, around 18 years I did all of Doniphan seniors, all of Naylor seniors, all of Neelyville seniors, all of Elsinore seniors, half of Piedmont seniors. I was doing about 50 or 60 of Poplar Bluff seniors, Corning.
You're a busy man.
I was doing up to 300 to 400 seniors a year.
For 20 years?
Yeah. We quit doing weddings after about 5 or 6 years. It was just too much. And we wanted to have fun, and we had fun working with seniors. I wished I'd brought some of my present day, but I didn't.
So meeting all these people through photography, you know, they say that a picture's worth 1,000 words. You know, is there a moment?
Well,
is there a moment that sticks out in your mind? You know.
Quite frankly, I don't know whether I want this on TV or not, but you know, here I retired from the Army as a lieutenant colonel. I was getting a retirement. I retired from school after 31 years. I was getting PSRS. I was getting Social Security. I was 50, well, I wasn't getting Social Security. I was 55 years old. I wasn't ready to quit. I felt a little arty. I wanted to do something artistically with photography. I started doing competition photography, and it was very, very successful, by the way. I got my certified professional in photography. I got some degrees in photography, and I got almost a master's level, but putting this away, what I said, when I retired, I was getting, and my wife retired from the state, and we didn't have to make a lot of money at photography, you know, so we could relax and do it the way we wanted to do it, you know. And it was after everything, it was a high point in my life. Of course, working with my wife, and working at something very artistically, and something I loved. It was. I've been very blessed, really. I mean, you know, if anybody in this world has been blessed, it's old Ripley. But basically,
well, and that kind of leads up to the next question. You know, and you still do. You give quite a bit back to the community. You do scholarships. You do, you know.
I do have a big thing in my life. One thing I regret very badly, I don't have any children, and I don't have any family whatsoever. I just don't have anybody except the people in Doniphan who I consider my family. Got a lot of good friends. But I regret that I don't have family, you know. It just didn't work out that way. So,
so the people here mean a lot to you.
Yeah.
So, what keeps you busy these days?
Oh, doing laundry, cooking. I do a little, I grow flowers. I visit people. It don't take much to keep an 80-year-old busy. You don't get much done. You slow down a little bit after 87. You slow down a little bit.
Well, that's all right. Somebody, speaking of visiting, somebody caught you recently stopping out in front of the school here.
Well, do what?
Somebody caught you the other day stopping in front of the school here.
Oh,
and, you know,
I think they're going to arrest me.
Yeah.
I really, that was fun. Of course, that's what I did all my life. If you're, whenever the flag goes up in the Army, you respect it. Whatever. I really enjoyed it. I was going down the street, whenever you're at an Army base in a car, and you hear the retreat, or reveille or retreat, you get out of the car and you salute or pay respects. I've done that all my life. I come out here and these young people were standing up there doing a great job with the flag coming up. I stopped that car just like I always do and got out. And what I really liked, your security pulled right up between me and the kids. I was really impressed. I worry about that security. I know y'all guys do too. We didn't have that worry. I didn't think we did back when I was here. But I really, I enjoyed what you're doing with the flag. I also was very respectful that they caught me, and they didn't know whether I had a submachine gun or what, I guess. But they pulled that car just away right between me and the deal, just where it should be. They did the right thing.
Good deal. So,
whoever you got for security was really on the ball this time.
So between between your teaching and the vocational school and your photography business and everything else, what things are you most proud of?
Being alive and enjoying everything. That I'm very appreciative. As I say, I'm very blessed. I've got some good friends I meet with every day. I go for coffee every morning with friends. I usually go for coffee in the afternoon with friends, and we visit. I try to do as much of my housework as I can. But gee, it's just been I've had a ball. What can I say? I've been very lucky. I'm a very, very lucky man.
Well, and the last thing, I have to say that pretty much everybody that hears your name, they have the utmost respect for you.
Well,
why do you?
It's great to hear that.
They'd be saying, you think that's because you've kind of treated people well over the years, or?
Well, gosh, I do the best I can. I can't say I'm always proud of everything I've done, but I try. You always make mistakes. I've made my share of them, yeah. But some of my mistakes I've been very lucky to survive them, and I've always been surrounded by good people somehow or another. I don't know whether I've attracted them or whether I've just been lucky to be where I was. But I want to say this, that all my life in the Army and photography in school, I have always been surrounded by great people, honest people, people that are trying to make a difference. Photographers who who made pictures a lot like we think that Rembrandt would have approached it. Not how much can I sell this for, but did I get the light just right, you know? And we tried to do that with school. I was never a big warrior. I never had to shoot anybody or never got shot at, even though I was infantry for 31 years. I was lucky, yeah. I was available for 31 years, but I was always surrounded by other people who were military people that were interested in military, and photographers who were interested in the art of photography, and educators who loved kids and worked for them, yeah.